Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to tackle something that trips up so many people, the present perfect versus the past simple. You know, those two tenses we use to talk about the past? Well, by the end of this, you're going to know exactly when to use each one. So let's jump right in and get this sorted out once and for all.
So really think about this for a second. How do you talk about something you did, say, last year, versus an experience you've had sometime in your life? It's a little tricky, isn't it? Well, don't worry, because we're about to find the answer to that exact question.
All right, to really see how these tenses work in the real world, let's listen in on a quick chat between two friends. They're talking about their exercise routines. I'm going to read both parts for you, so just listen closely to the verbs they use. That's the key.
Okay, so here's the first friend. They say, I've changed my morning routine this year. I've started going jogging before work. Did you hear that? I've changed, I've started. They're talking about a change that happened this year. And of course, this year isn't over yet.
Now listen to how their friend replies. That sounds healthy. I went jogging a few times last month, but I didn't continue. See the difference? I went. This happened last month. A specific time that's totally finished.
Okay, back to the first speaker. They add, I've also joined a new gym. I've learned a lot about exercise and healthy habits. Notice how they're just sharing their experiences. We don't know when they joined or when they learned, and it doesn't really matter. The experience is the important part. And the second friend comes back with another specific story from the past. That's great. I tried a gym last year, but I stopped after 2 weeks. Boom. There it is again. Last year. A finished time. A completed story.
And for the last part from our first speaker, they talk about the result of all these changes. I've noticed I'm more energetic now. It has really helped me relax and stay calm. This is a classic example, right? Something they did in the past has a direct effect on them right now. Okay, now listen to this last line from the second speaker, because it brings everything together perfectly. First, the finished past. I agree. When I exercised regularly last summer, I felt amazing. But then they connected to the present. But I haven't managed to organize a good routine lately. Wow, did you hear that? One sentence, two different tenses, talking about two different kinds of time. That's fantastic.
Right, so now that we've heard that conversation, let's actually break down what was happening. This is where it's all going to start making sense. So, think back to that chat. Who was the one talking about specific finished times, like last month? And who was the one talking about changes and experiences that are still important to them now?
And here, you can see it laid out perfectly. On one side, you've got the unfinished time, or connection to now sentences, things like, I've started jogging this year. And on the other side, you have the finished time in the past sentences, like, I went jogging last month. Seeing them right next to each other like this just makes the difference pop, doesn't it?
Okay, let's get into the grammar just a little bit. But hey, don't worry, we're going to keep it super simple and just focus on the big ideas you actually need to know. Really, the main difference boils down to one simple thing: time. That's it. All you have to ask yourself is this: is the time I'm talking about finished and over with? Or does it somehow connect the past to what's happening now?
So, first up, let's look at the present perfect simple. The formula is pretty straightforward. You just take have or has and add the past participle of the verb. Words like done, started, or learned.
So, when do you actually use this thing? Well, think of it in a few key ways. First, for your life experiences. When you did it isn't the point, like saying, I've seen that movie. Another big one is for recent things that have a result now. I've lost my wallet, which means I can't pay for my coffee. And finally, you use it for time periods that aren't finished yet, like I've had 2 cups of coffee today. Today's not over, so I might have more.
All right, now for the past simple. You're probably pretty familiar with this one. For regular verbs, you just stick ed on the end. And for those tricky, irregular verbs, you just have to use their special past form, like how go becomes went and try becomes tried.
And when do we use this? Simple. For actions that are 100% finished. They happened in the past and they stayed there. Think of it like telling a story that has a clear ending. You'll almost always see it with specific past time words like yesterday, last year, or 10 minutes ago. The action is done, the story is over.
Okay, this next part is super important because it shows how just picking one tense over the other can totally change what you're trying to say. Let's look at a couple of clear examples. Check this out. If you say, I've learned a lot about exercise this year, what does that imply? It means this year isn't over yet and your learning might continue. But
If you say, I learned a lot about exercise last year, that's a closed chapter. Last year is finished, and so is that period of learning.
Here's my favorite example, because it really shows that connection to now. If you call me and say, I've lost my keys, I know you have a problem right now. You can't get in your house. But if you say, I lost my keys yesterday, you're just telling me a story about what happened yesterday. For all I know, you found them 2 minutes later. The focus isn't on the present problem.
So, how can you remember all this without getting confused? Well, it all comes down to one key question you can ask yourself every single time.
And here it is. Just ask yourself, is the time period finished? If the answer is yes, we're talking about yesterday, last week, in 2010, then you use the past simple. If the answer is no, we're talking about today, this month, in my life, then you use the present perfect. That's really it.
So let's sum it all up. The past simple is for finished stories. Think of it like a photograph of a past event. The present perfect, on the other hand, is like a bridge. It connects something from the past directly to your life today.
And that brings us to a final question for you to think about. Using everything we just talked about, ask yourself this. What's one experience you've had that has changed who you are? See, the answer to that question is the present perfect, because that experience is the bridge connecting your past to the you that exists today. Thanks so much for joining me.